Welcome to the Unitarian Universalist Church of Utica. I'm Carol Gable, President of the Board. I'm so pleased to introduce our guest minister today, Reverend Evan Carville-Ziemer. Evan serves the Central Eastern region of the UUA, of which Utica is a part, in the areas of youth ministry, young adult ministry, and intercultural competency work, and as primary contact for congregations in upstate and central New York. Evan holds a Master's of Divinity from Earlham School of Religion and a Bachelor of Arts from Carleton College. Previous to her current position, Evan served as a student minister for the Olmsted UU congregation, intern minister at West Shore UU Church in Rocky River, Ohio, and as interim minister at Southwest UU congregation in North Royalton, Ohio. They also served as district staff in the St. Lawrence District and Ohio Meadville districts. Reverend Evan, we are so pleased to have you with us here today. Whether you are visiting for the first time or have been a member for many years, you are welcome here. Whatever faith you have known, if any, you are welcome here. Whoever you are and whomever you love, you are welcome here. We are invited to bring our whole selves to this worship service, our doubts as well as our convictions. The pain and joy we have known, our longing for connection and understanding, every part of you is welcome here. Our congregation acknowledges that the land on which UU Utica is situated is the ancestral lands of the Oneida Nation, one of the original nations of the Haudenosaunee or Iroquois people. If you are visiting today for the first time, online only, we are glad you have joined us. We would love to learn more about you and connect you with our newsletter if you like. There will be a link in the chat to a form that we hope any online visitors would fill out, and hope you'll stay for informal conversation and breakout groups after the service. Or we have a special Zoom breakout group you might want to join as well. The announcements today, this is, the first hybrid service for 2022 will be next Sunday. We're going back to in-person and on Zoom. If you would like to register to attend in person, please review the COVID protocols in the newsletter and pre-register with the link in the newsletter. Also, a proposed church covenant was presented during a service a couple of weeks ago, and information on the covenant is included in the weekly newsletter. A brief video explaining the covenant will be shared after these announcements right now. There will be a breakout room after today's service hosted by members of the team who drafted this covenant for us to answer any questions you might have. There will be a similar after church discussion on the 6th of February if you cannot join today. And finally, there will be a congregational vote to adopt the covenant after church on February 12th. And now let's see the video.
This covenant will be for us a guide, as well as a promise, speaking to our highest aspirations on how we wish to interact and engage with one another as a faith community. The process began prior to the COVID-19 pandemic and re-energized earlier this year as Reverend Laurie Staubitz and the Covenant team began soliciting input from the congregation, and will conclude with an adoption vote in mid-February. The team composed of Reverend Staubitz, Tammy Tenerowitz, Jack Pendrak, John Camilleri, and Jerry Reed, after input from the congregation, have developed the following for your review. The proposed Unitarian Universalist Church of Utica Covenant. We build our church on a foundation of love and covenant with one another to create a welcoming and trusting, safe community for all. To be open, honest, and compassionate to all, and look for the good intentions of others. Avoid gossip and speak directly to one another to resolve any differences. To speak kindly, respectfully, and compassionately, while listening carefully to all viewpoints. Explore and accept personal responsibility in conflict, being able to forgive and accept forgiveness. Participating with our community where there is common ground, serving with compassion and commitment. Approaching visitors with respect open hearts and minds, embracing everyone. We commit to this covenant as a means of supporting and living the 8 principles.
Wonderful. Let us open our hearts and minds to the experience of community and the wisdom of love.
We gather in the cold of winter, hibernating in our homes, called to gather in the warmth of community, each a square on the screen, doing the best we can. Thousands of generations before us lived through dark, cold winters. Our very bones know how to survive, how to seek out warmth and community, how to share what we have, even when all we have to offer is a story. Even that story is sometimes what gets us through. Come, let us worship together. Please remain muted and join in singing hymn number 188, Come, Come, Whoever You Are.
Come, come, whoever you are, wanderer, worshipper, lover of living, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, come, 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 whoever you are, condemned, worshipper, lover of living, ours is no worshipper, lover is living, ours is no caravan of despair. Come yet again, whoever you are, condemned, worshipper, lover of living, ours is no worshipper, lover is living. Come yet again, come.
We light our flaming chalice as a beloved people, united in love and thirsting for restorative justice. May it melt away the tethers that uphold whiteness in our midst. May it spark in us a spirit of humility. May it ignite in us radical love that transforms our energy into purposeful action. This is the chalice of audacious hope. This chalice shines a light on our shared past, signaling our intention to listen deeply, reflect wisely, and move boldly toward our highest ideals.
One of the most copied, translated, and printed sets of fables around the world trace their roots to the Sanskrit Panchatantra, or 5 treatises, collected between the 2nd and 3rd century CE. These tales were a teaching tool for the ruling elite, like a mirror for princes, and the animal protagonists are meant to teach moral lessons. Here's today's. A long time ago, there was a huge banyan tree, which was home to the nests of many birds. One day, a hunter happened to come to the tree. On seeing the many birds living in the tree, he set up his net below the tree and scattered a few grains of rice to attract them. A flock of pigeons flying past the banyan tree saw the grains of rice and went down to eat them. Suddenly, a huge net fell over them and they were trapped. They struggled to get out of it, but couldn't. They could see the hunter walking towards them, looking delighted, having caught so many pigeons. The pigeons were distressed and thought the end was near. But the wise king of the pigeons had a plan and said, "We should all fly up carrying the net with us. Once we manage to get away from the hunter, we can think of what to do next." The pigeons listened to their king's advice. Each pigeon held a part of the huge net in his beak, and they all flew up together. The hunter was amazed to see this happening. He tried to catch them, but they were too fast. The king of the pigeons knew a mouse that lived not far from them and could help them escape the net. Hearing his friend's voice, The mouse came out of his hole. He saw the pigeons and their king trapped in the net and said, "Oh, who did this? I will set you free right away." He began to nibble the net nearest to the king, but the king stopped him and said, "First, set my subjects free. No king can see his subjects in pain and be free himself." The mouse nibbled off the net easily with his sharp teeth, and after freeing all the pigeons, he freed the king pigeon at last. The pigeons were very grateful to the mouse. They thanked the mouse and flew away.
Our reading this morning are words by Leslie Jameson. Empathy isn't just something that happens to us, a meteor shower of synapses firing across the brain. It's also a choice we make to pay attention, to extend ourselves. It's made of exertion, that dowdier cousin of impulse. Sometimes we care for another because we know we should, or because it's asked for, but this doesn't make our caring hollow. The act of choosing simply means we've committed ourselves to a set of behaviors greater than the sum of our individual inclinations. This confession of effort chafes against the notion that empathy should always rise unbidden, that genuine means the same thing as unwilled, that intentionality is the enemy of love. But I believe in intention and I believe in work. I believe in waking up in the middle of the night and packing our bags and leaving our worst selves for our better ones.
We are going. Heaven knows where we are going, but we know we will. It will be hard, we know, and the road will be muddy and rough, but we'll get there. Heaven knows how we will get there. When Carol asked me for a blurb and a title for this service, that song just seemed exactly right. It's an Afropop song by Ossie Bisa, I think popularized for many of us by Art Garfunkel in the 70s. Woyaya means we are going in the Ghanaian language Ga. We're going. We don't know where we're going or what life will be like on the other side, but we're going. In my role at the UUA, I have 28 primary contact congregations and work on our whole team. We've divided up the Central East region, so we each have a set of primary contacts. So while I spend some time creating programmatic resources, I spend most of my time with congregational leaders. Sometimes my primary contacts, and sometimes I'm brought in to other people's. So when Carol asked me to speak today, she asked what I'm seeing across congregations and how are congregations doing and what are keeping our communities going. I want to begin by saying I don't think anything I'm going to share is going to be new or a surprise to you. As a side note, I don't think that's really true of any sermon or reflection. Our role of worship leaders is to help each other remember what we already know. But one of the things I am seeing in this pandemic is it's really helpful for all of us in our own isolated ways just to know that we aren't alone and that other people are experiencing something similar to us. And sometimes that's the only comfort I actually can offer as UUA staff is, yep, that's what's happening. There's nothing easy about being, what are we, month 23 of a global pandemic? There's particularly nothing easy about being in month 23 of a global pandemic in a country whose individualism and commitment to capitalism has led us, particularly in this last year, to fail to collectively care for each other. There's no reason for parents to be losing jobs because daycares keep closing. There's no reason for people not to have paid sick time off. There's no reason for people to be inadequately paid, period. And there's no reason we couldn't have had enough rapid tests and PCR tests a year ago. There's no reason we could have adequately supported those working in healthcare or teaching or a dozen other professions really deeply impacted. And I know you all know that, whether you know it because you've personally felt the pain of one of those things, or because you feel lucky and you feel beat down by how impossible it is as one person to do anything about this and to care for all of our neighbors. And really, in some ways, probably we're all in both categories. Like all natural disasters, in some ways, the worst impacts of the pandemic are the very human ones. And the more isolated and alone, the harder these impacts are. To the extent we can, we must be the pigeons carrying the net together. One congregation cannot carry the net alone, on its own, sure. But I chose that because the image really stands out for me of how if we approach this pandemic individually, it is breaking us. But what is possible is what we do together. And I meant every implied criticism of any leader not following the guidance of the king of the pigeons, from our state bureaucrats to senators to CEOs. But we as a congregation, we as Unitarian Universalists can carry the net for us and lessen the impacts on us and our communities. I know you've been doing that. You've been doing that for almost 2 years. And even though you're tired and it may sometimes seem like your efforts are not enough, I want you to know that it is enough. I want you to stop and notice how much you've been doing to carry that net together and create possibilities in each other's lives. It really matters. It will make a difference long-term for everyone in your community and everyone touched by your community's ministry. And yet nobody is their best self anymore. Most of us are tired, cranky, and easily annoyed. We're not able to phrase ourselves in the kind way we wish we could. We're setting each other off, and that level of cranky people setting each other off is happening everywhere. So what are the practices that get us through this time? These things aren't going to make it all better, but they can sustain us, make a difference. And here's what I'm observing. Wonder. Wonder is one of those seemingly little things in life that can make all the difference. Wonder in the beauty of the snowstorm, or the pattern of ice on a window, in the sharing of a photo of the sunset, in the miracle of this technology that connects us. All wonder takes is slowing down and noticing. And here's a few miracles happening now. Happening in your body now. The human immune system is so marvelously complex with so many different kinds of antibodies and immune responses that we don't even know yet all the ways the COVID-19 vaccinations are protecting us. We hear about the neutralizing antibody levels because they're easy to measure. And as predicted by science, they wane, they contract over time. And you've heard about that. We've known about it before there were vaccines that would happen. But there's new data. This is data from the CDC. The risk of severe illness or death goes down 6 months after primary vaccination. Without boosters, without boosting those neutralizing antibodies, something is happening in the immune system 6 months after vaccination. That means your body is still getting better at fighting off COVID-19, even with new variants. The scientists I listen to predict this is T cells, but we don't have proof yet. All we know is, wow, something is happening. More every time you receive a vaccination or are boosted or infected. I think this is the neatest thing. Your B cells go to your lymph nodes and they hang out there and mutate, random mutations, creating antibodies against all kinds of potential mutations of the disease. And those B cells go out in your body and make antibodies for variants you haven't even seen yet. With each new dose or infection, the number of variants your body is ready for expands. That's why the booster increases antibodies for Omicron, even though the booster is the original variant. Our bodies are mutating antibodies to predict variants. I think our immune systems are seriously cool. Wonder, share your wonder with each other. You might have other wonders than my seriously geeky immune system wonder. Offer gratitude and kindness. Gratitude is one of those things every spiritual teacher advises, and yet when we're feeling particularly down, it can be hard to generate. But it is something that fake it till you make it works on. If generating that really warm feeling of gratitude in your heart is hard, just try telling other people you're grateful for them. Tell the tech folks at church, tell the treasurer, the people who plow the parking lot, the crossing guard at school. It will start to warm. The gratitude expressed sustains us and goes a long way to help each other too, especially at a time so many are short-tempered, even mean with each other. It's amazing how far just a little gratitude and kindness goes. And I'm talking on a daily practice out in the world with strangers too. Maybe you have a story like this. A week before Christmas, I was waiting in line to buy COVID-19 rapid tests at a pharmacy. I was tired. It was Friday. I had just driven 45 minutes both ways to the church that my family attends to drop something off before a snowstorm because I didn't want to drive in the snowstorm. The pharmacy was understaffed. And when I was finally at the open register, the one cashier had to run to help someone else before returning to help me. She was profusely apologetic, and I just said in my tired voice, "I'm fine. There's no rush. I can be patient." When she returned, she was so grateful for that simple, like, I can be patient, the kindness of only being patient and not cranky. And her gratitude told me everything I needed to know about how other customers had been that day. I think I said something like, this is a hard time for everyone, and the least we can do is not take it out on each other, and I can be patient. And I was just grateful she was here and I could buy a rapid test. My patience didn't cost me anything, and her gratitude sustained me on a day I was tired and cranky. And that simple human connection we shared in the midst of a hard time made a difference in that moment for both of us. I was still tired and cranky, and the pharmacy was still understaffed and filled with grouchy people, but we were both a little less alone. Humor. Laughter is medicine. Many professions have their own forms of dark humor. And at times like this, dark humor is one of the, I think, human coping mechanisms. I certainly have been a little punchy lately on all kinds of things. Like keep expecting my kids' school to close for staffing, and it closed for a burst pipe in the boiler room because of that Arctic blast. It's also possible to find humor in the ridiculous, the very human errors, mistakes we all make, even the tech glitches. The Zoom setting that isn't quite what we think it should be, the slides not shared the way we intended to them. When we can find the switch that allows humor, even if we're still frustrated or disappointed or exhausted, that humor bridges the gaps between us and is much more productive than venting the frustration at each other. So whether it's that kind of humor that's getting the like laugh sob reaction on the internet, or something that's just pure laughter, humor is absolutely essential right now. Patience and grace with each other. We're all humans, we all screw up. None of us is perfect. The more we can cut each other some slack and hand out kindness instead of frustration, humor, the easier this time is. And a key place I see this right now is how congregations are treating their volunteer staff and leaders. So let me tell you a tale of two congregations. They're not my primary contact congregations. One congregation was down to 2 tech volunteers in December. 2 is one more than the one they had for the first 6 months of online worship. But one of the 2 is moving and had to resign, so they're down to 1 again. In this congregation, when leadership thinks about what they should do next, the next like layer of technology, of hybrid, of how to do multi-platform, it's always someone should, but it's this one volunteer who's willing. And when the tech goes wrong on Sunday, someone is always sure to tell the volunteer exactly what went wrong and what should be done better next time. Their standards are high, and they make sure the tech volunteer knows it. In the other congregation, even smaller than the first, there are plenty of tech volunteers. The technology is never perfect. In fact, it's cobbled together on the fly sometimes. Sometimes the service pauses while the tech volunteer remembers how to share the YouTube video, or the slides get shared so you see the presentation screen instead of the actual slide. We stop and figure it out, but no one complains. The tech volunteers are always graciously thanked and encouraged, and so they have plenty of willing volunteers ready to be trained and take a turn and learn a new skill if there's a need. I could tell the same basic sketch of the congregations where people are cranky about the leadership's decisions about when to return to some in-person ministry, and where they're patient, knowing there are lots of needs and building ventilation is complicated and staffing is hard and so on. Or where the staff and minister feel supported, and where the minister is in too many too long meetings too frequently about every little thing they've done wrong and even how the camera angles could be improved. Patience and grace, just give each other a little grace. We're all doing the best we can. And the last one I want to say is about honesty, vulnerability, and repair. Please don't get me wrong. If something's hurtful, I'm not telling you to swallow your feelings. That's not what I mean by grace and patience. It is possible to be honest and vulnerable with our feelings and seek true relationship repair without weaponizing our feelings and taking them out on each other. So taking the time to genuinely identify what's hurtful, exactly how we feel, who we need to talk to. Sometimes we feel hurt and we stop and pay attention and realize it's really about all this other stuff, or it's really a big deal right now because of all this other stuff. I still need to tell you, but I'm going to tell you that it's a big deal because of the other stuff. It helps us to talk directly to each other in ways that affirm the relationship matters enough to me that I want to repair it, and I want to tell you how I feel. It's so different than when we weaponize our feelings or take what's happening outside and then outside the congregational life and spew it at each other. This is a time when it's a little harder for each of us to let things slide that we've always let slide. A little harder when frustrated and exhausted to say the kind, calm thing we wish we were able to say, and a little easier to say the frustrated, not quite so kind thing. So it's also a good time to be practicing covenant. Practice repair, practice vulnerability and honesty and beginning again. Practice saying, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to hurt you. None of the congregations experiencing conflict right now surprise me. They're all experiencing conflict in the patterns that you would expect in that congregation. It's the same old stuff that just right now really matters. And I keep saying to people, this is a good time to practice. This time is hard. Our emotional reserves are low. You may be home alone and bored, with the isolation becoming more painful. Or juggling not enough childcare, with daycares quarantining and feeling unable to be good at anything, parent, spouse, or colleague. You may be afraid for your health, or frustrated with loved ones not willing to take the risks that you find small. The differences in our experiences can make it harder to come together, harder to feel seen and supported when others are having a different experience. And yet, if we can think of lifting that net together, offering each other our wonder, our gratitude, our kindness, our patience, our grace, our honesty, our vulnerability, and when needed, repair. We have been lifting that net together, and it does make a difference. It will keep making a difference. For some of us, for many of us, this is our first experience of needing this kind of sustained community resilience that goes on and on. But we must remember we are not alone, that human communities have survived and continue to survive hard experiences. Our ancestors who lived through the 1918 pandemic may not have passed down their oral history, their guidance of what to do, but we have stories and examples of communities around the world, particularly communities living through oppression, to show us we can support each other even in hard times. We can continue to sustain our resilience. And even if the hard times last longer than we hoped, even if those with power and resources to ease this time for us do not, we can lift the net together. Please stay muted and join me in singing hymn number 95, There Is More Love Somewhere.
There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope somewhere.
This was written this week by my colleague, Reverend Joanne Fontaine Crawford. Begins with a Ted Lasso quote. We're going through our dark forest. Fairy tales do not start, nor do they end in the dark forest. I want you to imagine right now that you were given assurance that this difficult time will end and things will absolutely get better. It will all work out. Take a deep breath and let it out slowly. Just for a moment, put aside any cynicism and allow yourself to rest in that idea. We are in the dark forest now, but we will not stay here. Better days will come, easier days, days of lightness, days of joy. We just need to keep moving day by day through this part of the forest. Feel the peace of resting in that idea that things will work out. Take another deep breath and sit in that peace. Now imagine yourself moving through these next few weeks with calmness and open-heartedness. Seeing those around you not through the lens of judgment, but with a loving spirit. See their potential, their gifts, their better nature. See yourself putting down the burden of feeling the need to judge, and instead you can just be. You know that everyone is carrying hurt and fear, and most really are doing the best they are capable of right now. Now imagine yourself looking in a mirror. Look at that face, that beautiful, lively face with love, with appreciation. That person has gone through so many things in their life, and they're still here, trying their best. Take a deep breath. Feel the peace of being able to look at others and ourselves with curiosity, not judgment. Feel the peace that it will all work out. Amen. Blessed be.
It is now time for our offering. We know that our financial contributions to this congregation come from sacrifice and hard work. We are so grateful for this and commit together to ensure the funds we gather collectively do a greater good for ourselves and our world than they could have done alone. May there be an offering to sustain and grow the life and mission of this congregation. May we give in love and hope.
For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. Oh, for each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth, keepers of faith, makers of peace, and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers mothers of courage, fathers of time, daughters of dust, and the sons of great visions. We're sisters of mercy, brothers of love, lovers of life, and the builders of nations. We're seekers of truth and keepers of faith. We are makers of peace and the wisdom of ages. We are our grandmother's prayers. We are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings. We are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. We are one. We are our grandmother's prayers, and we are our grandfather's dreamings, and we are the breath of our ancestors. We are the Spirit of God. We are mothers of courage.
Now we extinguish our chalice. Please join me in the words on the screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we meet again.
The benediction is by Eric Walker Wickstrom. If you are who you were, and if the person next to you is who he or she was, if none of us has changed since the day we came in here, we have failed the purpose of this community, of any church, temple, zendo, mosque, is to help its people grow. We do this through encounters with the unknown in ourselves and one another, in the other, whoever that might be for us, however hard that might be, because these encounters have many gifts to offer. So may you go forth from here this morning, not who you were, but who you could be. So may we all.
What the world needs now is love, sweet love. It's the only thing that there's just too little of. What the world is love, sweet love.